Hi, my name is Brian Propst. Thanks for joining me. This is my home studio here, Mad Propst Productions. I'm going to be talking today about informing your work, something that is specifically leading me down a really enlightened path, something that I'm really finding a lot of fulfillment in. And I want to share it with you because it's really important to me that not only does my work actually mean something, but I'm actually able to express some of the development that I've had spiritually through some of these elements here. And what I'd like to do is start out with how I develop my work. Some of the paintings that I'm actually reflecting on more recently have proven to be a little bit outside of my character, or outside of my nature, outside of my personality. And not in every way, but enough for me to take notice that there was a visual representation of my work at one point, and it's drastically changed since, for instance, my thesis work in art school. So I want to talk about that. It's really important to me, and I really thought that anybody out there might find some value in it, if not just a little bit of entertaining factor that might help to inform the way you see the paintings that I make. So the first thing I'll talk about is, a lot of the thesis work that I was doing had to do with wrestlers and wrestling, because my background as a wrestler. I was a high school wrestler, took it really seriously. If you're very familiar with the sport, you understand how grueling and much of a brotherhood it actually develops because of that harsh environment that you put yourself through. It's very tough. It's very competitive. It's very it builds character to me as how I look at it. Honestly, wrestling made me who I am. Put it that way. My masculinity is something that I've always held on to. We were raised in this world of boys don't cry, stay tough, be tough. And it's starting to shift a little bit in the feminine direction. And one of the things that I think have tuned into is something to do with that, maybe in the collective consciousness, or it might have something to do with myself in particular. A lot of the elements that drive my work have to do with masculinity, have to do with that, machismo, tough guy. Collisions of men is something that's very, very significant to me. That kinetic energy I like to get captured in a painting. So what I end up doing is I put into the context of the painting, I compose the work so that you're seeing, for instance, my hands. If my hand is the subject, is the person, the man, so the wrestler, and there's two of them in the painting. Now notice how there's plenty of room for them to reach the top and the bottom here. Okay. So what I like to do is squeeze that composition so that you're no longer able to stand. You have to shrink to the size of it, which gives you that feeling of compression. And that compression with two in the same space, it's going to be a collision, and the collision has got so much force inside of this cell, this element of capturing the energy. I want it to feel like it's ready to explode, because I want that energy to explode outside of the actual canvas itself when I paint this type of composition. So you'll see I'm going to probably pop a couple of paintings up here just to show you. But one of the things I really love about that is that I also find that in life, collisions create the most profound and long-lasting and deep relationships. Okay? If you think about it, if you've ever had a fight with somebody, most of the time it's because you care about that person or care deeply about that subject matter, and that person, hit your button. Okay? Well, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. If you run around thinking, I hate this person forever, you realize that you are holding them so dearly to your heart. How sweet. You probably didn't even realize that, did you? Something that I've come to grips with in my, wrestling career is, there's a certain love that you have for your competitor when they give it all to you. When they go out on the mat and they don't hold back. They honor you. This is a real sense of honor when somebody comes to you, brings their A game to you, just like I should do for them, and I will honor them and I will honor the sport. The same thing can be applied. That is a superb metaphor for life in general. So that's one of the elements that I really developed my art around, and I found myself, expressing that in my earlier work, especially when I was going through art school, my thesis. And I'm looking back over the past year, and my personal work, I've been getting a lot into developing my spiritual practice, in addition to that. So it's I think it's significant. In addition to that, I'm also focusing a lot on digital marketing. Hence, you see me here on a video talking to you. I'm learning a lot about the back ends of social media, websites, that type of thing. And I'm really helping to develop people's sense of utilizing that to monetize and to be able to help themselves develop their own craft, like artists in particular. That's my biggest advocacy. I love to help promote and show other artists how to promote themselves, and I'm the biggest advocate for success of another artist. I want so much for artists to find that within themselves, because I remember what it felt like to not have that, to feel like I'll never make money with art, I'll never sell a painting, I'll never do anything. And I grew up thinking, in a household that, obviously was about sports and about other elements, and we never really pushed each other in any direction, no doctors and lawyer talk or whatever, but we were that, that family that figured, oh, we'll all figure it out on our own. Well, now look, I'm an artist, and my brother is a world-traveling, world-famous chef. Go-Go Chef, by the way, the Go-Go Chef, .com, if you want to check him out. Taller, handsomer, so not this is the compact version. So anyway, I digress. I would like to get back to the point and what my paintings have been developed in the past year about, based on that spiritual development. I'm seeing a lot of that feminine come out. I'm painting women, painting faces of women, almost like exotic goddess figures, and I'm painting a lot of conceptual elements that I used to try and submerge hidden into the paintings, which is another funny kind of a relationship, not necessarily a metaphor, but it's more of a relationship. Like, for instance, if you were to consider, today's tough guy male, you walk around, tough on the outside, got a lot of emotions on the inside, you're holding back, even if they don't admit it. You're holding them down, hiding them. Well, that thick skin that you don't see through to the emotion, maybe that was, what I was doing with my paintings. But to the point that my paintings have developed, I'm painting a lot of more feminine scenes. I'm painting the feminine figure. I'm painting concepts that are from the perception of femininity. Okay, so that leads me to my next point. And yes, I have a chalk marker in my hand because I'm busting out a whiteboard here. So the whole idea of the spiritual journey that I have gone on has brought me to a lot of different philosophies. And something that I've always been familiar with is obviously that everybody has is the idea of the Yin Yang. I remember growing up, drawing all the logos and stuff, in the 90s. You got like Stussy, No Fear. We were just doing yin yangs and peace signs, Joey Connell, you know what I'm talking about. We used to do it all day. Every single thing that led me here, I didn't quite understand, the significance of any of the icons or, the glyphs that you see out and about. Even just a triangle has so much, deep relationship to, sacred geometry, to Judaism, to Christianity. They're so like woven in, and the things that we absorb at the topsoil level and that we are being taught and told on a daily basis, sometimes they go a little bit deeper than others, but for the most part they're not really, I don't think, meant to give us the real truth. They'll give us the kind of the blanket statement to get by. So what I did was I explored a little bit of my emotions, my feelings, and why it is that my paintings are starting to represent and manifest themselves in this feminine way. So what I came up with is that the Yin Yang is something that, obviously, it's the core, right? You want to go down to the minimalist aspect, and the Yin Yang represents just that. It's basically, what I really love about it, by the way, is this sense of there's a seed of one in the other, and the one is in this duality state of man. Everything's a polarity, everything's a dichotomy. You're either, one thing or not. What I relate this to is binary code. You're a 1 or you're a 0. You can't be anything in between that. There's no gray, which brings me to the black and the white of your yin yang. Hopefully I can flip this when we do the edit here. But the yin yang, your top yin and your bottom the yang. If you've never explored this is pretty profound of a symbol. Okay, now there's a seed of one within the other, but these are exact opposites. The yin represents the dark place. Actually, it's the exact translation, I believe. And the yang, the sunny place. Now, when you have these two elements combined, it's not about opposition or opposing forces. This is about complementary. This is one. This is one. We are of one. We are a collection of energy. That's all we are. We are light. We are brought together at this point. We'll get into that in another spirituality concept, but this is about the art. So the idea that the yin and the yang exist, the whole point and the whole concept of my art that I can apply to this, and is what I'm understanding and learning more about, the idea of feminine and masculine, the idea of the idea. Okay, so if you think about what the feminine represents, it's the thoughts. You're imagining things, you're conceptualizing, your creativity comes from this. You know, I don't want you to think this is negative or positive in any way, by the way. You know, masculine and feminine to me doesn't have a moral sense. You know, we are in an environment today, socially, politically, where when you talk about masculine and feminine, you might be, you know, treading on, you know, thin ice there. But that's not what this is about. This is not about representing what's better and what's, you know, who should be dominant. The idea is that this is one. We balance each other, we need each other, and we need the full essence of masculinity and femininity to make this world work. You have got to get past the point at which you think your point is most important. If you are of one sense and that's it, you're missing the entire other half of your sense of duality. You need the balance in life. Balance, that is indeed the most insignificant factor. Most people seek it, and you know, they really are going after that sense of peace. Okay, so where I'm going with this is what I've been getting into with my feminine art. Why am I representing these thoughts and females and creativity? Well, I believe it's because I'm in my exploratory work. So in terms of the yin is going to be where you're seeing a lot of the feminine. So when you're talking the feminine, you're actually realizing that that is the essence of creativity, the guise of, you know, the development stage. It's not the action, it's the thought, it's the information. Okay, so to me, I don't like some of these terms that I'm gonna throw out there technically for the moral or the political sense, but these are what I'm finding that the representations are. So this is a sense of yielding. Okay, so it's a sense of thought. And if you consider, this is an element of the water, the earth, the moon, okay? These are these elements here. Whereas, in the contrast, on the complement, okay, on the yang, this is the masculine. You ever heard the term, thoughts become things? That's because the thoughts need to inform the things. Okay, if you just do and you have no rhyme or reason why you're doing, do you ever feel lost? Okay, there needs to be balance there as well. You ever just thought and thought and thought and consumed and wonder why you don't feel fulfilled, even though you're getting all this vast, you know, amounts of knowledge? If you're not acting, you're not in balance. You need to align with the balance, and that's what I'm finding is that in my work, I'm acting, I'm painting, I'm getting the energy out, but I'm still finding something that I'm reaching for. I'm not quite there, which is also, you know, a sign of maybe a painter working through something. But at the same time, I'm acknowledging the fact that my work used to be very masculine. I think I was hiding a lot of the emotions, and now it's flooding out when I immerse myself in a lot of these audible environments. I paint with some house music, and I just get in. So I love it, and I get really, really deep into this. But the whole aspect of the masculine side, it's still existent because I'm acting and I'm putting it onto that canvas. Okay, that's the key element here, and something that's most crucial. And I want to get to that a little bit more in depth later on in another, you know, sequence of you know, paintings and videos that I'll explain. But the idea of this yin and the yang and the masculine versus the feminine, it's not an opposite, you know, collision there, in the aspect that this is one. This is a complementary relationship. This is all one element, and this is what's actually informing a lot of the balance in my life now. You know, this is a very, very fundamental philosophy. It's very significant. It's a Taoist philosophy. So if you're interested in learning more about this, obviously this is a symbol that's iconic and it's very easy to find, but there's so much, you know, profound knowledge in some of the most simplistic forms. The minimalist approach to things is something I'm trying to, you know, core down to when it comes to my my concepts. And then when I go masculine, I'll get my Napoleon complex on. I want to paint a 60-foot mural. You know, that's my masculine side. I tend to reach and express out to a very far. I try to push my limits. You know, I really do try and push that as far as I can. So basically some of the elements that this is relationship to, so I can round this off. You've got the masculine, basically focused, solid, hard. These are the elements. We'll say it's also fast. So one of the elements here of significance, obviously, if you're following along with the complementary relationship here, water versus fire. Okay, so you have the idea that the sun is also part of that fire. So you're noticing these complementary factors of human relationship, of sensitivity to our environments, our perception. Okay, that's all this is about perception. So when I paint and I lay it out on the canvas, I'm actually in my exploratory phases, finding a lot out about not only myself, but also a lot more about the content and subject matter, because it gets itself out and it creates almost a third element. Okay, that third element becomes the thing as the canvas. When I get to my point of true balance and I'm painting, I'm in stride, I'm meditating, that's where it's at. It flows through me, and I love that work. That's not my masterpiece, master craftsman work. It's more of my exploratory work, but I like to inform it with, this type of sensitivity. So, in summary, I'd like to do thank you for sticking out this video. But basically, I like to say that I'm learning a lot about and experiencing a lot with and experimenting with the idea of masculine and feminine and understanding the balance in life. Okay, so every single thing that you are finding yourself perceiving, your perspective on that element that you are, the dynamic on yourself, your sense of who you are, your perception can be altered, can be changed, and can be significantly, aligned with a little bit more of your truer self if you acknowledge what's real, as opposed to try and take on what the system is telling you is real, what you should act like. In layman's terms, don't subscribe to these concepts of masculinity or femininity. There is no need for one dominance, okay? There is need for yielding, but there is also need for hardness. Stoicism is something that I just, a philosophy that I'm diving into right now as well. These are different elements that inform my work. They have always informed my work, but they've always been a little more subtle. I'm being a little bit more forceful about my entry into this. I guess some people are calling it visionary art. I'm not really quite sure what the world of it is, because like I said, I'm in my exploratory phase. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being with me in the exploratory phase. And I hope this resonates with you. Maybe gives you a little insight, and if you've got any insight as well on the yin yang, I would really love to hear your opinions about how yin and yang affect things in a different perspective. Maybe I've got my notes wrong. Maybe I've got a different perspective that it's not quite aligning with the way that you see it. I'd love to hear how you see it. So drop a comment, hit me up on Facebook or YouTube here, and I'll much appreciate again the time and spending with me here, and I will catch you on the next one.